Good morning, everybody. Good morning. How was your weekend? Tell me all about it. Have you cleaned up from Christmas? Getting things put away? It was a super nice day here yesterday, so you can get the Christmas lights down, unless you're the type that leaves them up all year round. I'm not judging. So it is January 9th, almost to the middle of January, and welcome back to the channel. This is our first holiday free week, to be quite honest, in quite a while. And when I say that, I mean we don't have anything holiday themed going on. We don't have to worry about how to compliment someone's meatballs on a toothpick at work. We don't have any unusual shopping to do. We are back to the daily grind. I was in here chatting earlier, said hi to most of you. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Oh, Lisa Martinez said my Titans lost. My Titans lost. I mailed your package, by the way, Lisa. You should be getting it today or tomorrow. Knock on wood. You know how the mail system goes. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Nisa. Hey, Lori. AV made it in. Yep, the weekend is always too short. Always too short. And this was I had a busy weekend. A lot going on. Shelly, who'd the Broncos play? Shelly said the Broncos won. Yes, JTB, our Chiefs won. A good win for the Bills. I know a lot of people, even if you're not a Bills fan, were rooting for the Bills. DeMar was actually tweeting during the game. He's still in critical condition. What a crazy thing that was. That was insane. Hello, JC from Denmark. Hello, hello. A lot of stuff is going on. A lot of stuff. Okay, so today we have two shows. Of course, right now, going to be talking about Brian and all his messiness. And then at 1 o'clock Central Time, we have another Brian I'm going to introduce you all to. He's been arrested for basically lying to the police in his wife's disappearance. Her name is Anna Walsh. So make sure you set your reminder and come back at 1 o'clock. Thank you for starting our Monday with a super sticker, Teresa. Thank you so much. Shelly, yep, Dee Hamlin brought the country together. It's not every day you tune into a football game and you see someone brought back to life. That's a little different than a pulled hamstring or a broken leg. That was horrific. Hopefully, we never see that again. Hopefully, we never, ever see that again. So, in this case, a lot of things came out over the weekend. It seems like any case that involves anyone under the age of 30, these new platforms are introduced that are, well, as we know, Facebook is a dinosaur. Twitter, old as dirt. Snapchat, who cares? 60-year-olds use Snapchats now, right? That's what the kids say. Well, a new platform was being discussed last week. I didn't think too much of it, to be quite honest, because, well, these profiles have a way of popping up in these cases. I can't remember what the platform was that we talked about during the Kylie Rodney case. I've already forgotten. So in this one, we have the VCSO, I think, that Dylan was using just basically right before the murders. Well, about 10 years ago, Bushy was using one called Tapatalk. And he was sharing a lot of stuff about what was going on in his mind on it. We're going to talk about that. Steve also spoke to a reporter regarding the 911 call or lack thereof for 8 hours. Gonna talk about that. BTK has spoken out. I know you all were really worried about that, so we're gonna go over that. And I didn't put it on the community tab. I didn't make a video. I'm actually asking you guys here on live because well, I put a video up asking about the leaked audio and I said, "Do you guys think this is real?" And some people really came after me and said, "This is beneath you. This is disrespectful." I'm asking a damn question. I have a right to communicate too. So here we are on live. I'm asking you, is this really Brian's sister taking pictures at the crime scene? I've heard yes, and I've heard no, that's not her. Now let me ask you this. If it is Brian's sister playing Nancy Drew with her brother's case, do you think it's proper? No, no, no. I guess in all fairness, it is his defense. And if he wants his sister screwing it up, why not? I don't know what to say about it. I don't know. Jamie said no crime scene would allow it. Supposedly she was with his defense attorney, who is allowed to be at the crime scene to investigate on his behalf. I just can't figure it out. Wicklow made it in. I just don't think that's a good idea if it's her. If it's her. Glenjamin made it in. Okay, Snazzy said victim's family was not allowed. So if the victim's family was not allowed to look at the crime scene, why would Brian's? How can she be part of his defense team? She's not a private investigator that I know of, unless she took a quick course over the weekend or the weekend before. I thought his sister was a nurse. I don't know. I just don't see how that could play out and anything good come of it. Anything good come of it. Hello, Snow. Speaking of snow, a new term that came out over the weekend is visual snow. It is said, rumored, because I have not talked to Brian myself, he's been very busy, that this is a condition he suffers from. Now, before we get into the show and all of this stuff that he said on Tapatalk, I just have to put an asterisk around everything. There is 100% no excuse for what he's accused of doing. None. None, none, none. I am in no way an expert in anything except talking to you guys. And what he spoke about on Tapatalk was over 10 years ago. So I think we're good there. Let's go through some comments from the last show. And then we're going to get to the meat and potatoes. Let's do it. Also, the link is pinned. Jump in. Don't be shy. Susan Hart said, if the sheath was missing, which it was, according to the probable cause, which is the only facts we have, everything else is speculation and a he said, she said at this point. All we have, and it's a lot, but it's got a lot of holes in it. Sorry. Which it should, because it's just the probable cause. It's probably. She says, if the sheath was missing, which it was, according to the PCA, it was found next to Maddie. That's where they got his DNA. Touch DNA is what it's called. Listen to me. If it was missing, he had to have been holding the knife when Dylan saw him. How did she not see it? Unless that was redacted from the PCA or just not put in, not mentioned at all. But that makes no sense since it places the murder weapon in his hands. Now, seeing him with the knife in his hand would definitely change things, would it not? Not only do you place him right at the scene and his footprint is outside your door, he's holding the damn murder weapon. Now, I've got another asterisk, so let's buckle up. It is a Monday. Might as well get the shit shoveled fast, huh? There are a lot of people online right now, and we don't really pay attention to them, that are triggered and offended that Dylan is talked about. Dylan is named in a probable cause affidavit. We are not blaming her. We are not accusing her, but she's going to be brought up. She is the eyewitness. Now, you have people that smoke cigarettes to the age of 90 and pass away peacefully in their sleep. Then you have people at the age of 40 who've never touched a cigarette and die of lung cancer. I can't figure it out. It is the same with shock, trauma, and everything like that. Okay? So, according to the PCA, she saw him, she saw his bushy eyebrows, she locked the door and was in her room for 8 hours before 911 was called. That's all we know. I don't know if she was in shock. It doesn't say. I don't know if she was in trauma. I would think she would be. I don't know. All I know is what is in that document that says she opened her door 3 times, she locked the door, and was not to be heard of again for almost noon. So I'm going to get that out of the way. But she is, as they said, not me, not me. Aaron Snell, who is the public information officer, said they could be the key to the whole thing, meaning her and Bethany. They will both have to witness. One show said, no, they're not going to beat up on the eyewitnesses or anything like that. The defense, it would be a really bad look for the jury. The hell they won't. They will pick her story apart. And one thing they're really going to hone in on is, why didn't you call 911? Our brain protects us from things. There's things that we will never, ever, ever remember because our brain shut off. It shut it off. Her brain did not. Her brain did not. Her brain gave a very detailed, just what little bit we got was a lot of detail, okay, guys? Description of what was going on. So her brain is letting her remember. And unfortunately, she will have to testify, and she got put into a really horrific situation. But I'm thinking about what Sarah said too. Not Sarah, Susan. The sheath's upstairs. It was found next to Maddie. So he's carrying the knife. The knife was not found at the house. They went through the trash and everything. Trust me, they're looking for the knife. He didn't have it behind his ear. It's not a pencil. But then it was dark too, so I don't know. This was actually from Discord. Ryan said, why were there no noise complaints the night of the murders? You have a Ring camera that picked up a thud, barking, talking. You could, people's voices. And months leading up to the murders, unless it was Brian doing it his damn self, there were multiple noise complaints. But at 4:30 in the morning, November 13th, nobody heard a damn thing. I loved that comment. John Doe said many people have made comments about the car. One thing to note is that the police were very specific about the car. The police repeatedly and specifically said they were looking for a white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Brian was driving a 2015. Okay, now a white Elantra is a white Elantra. I'm not going to know the year. But a lot of people do know the years. I still wonder, and I believe it was a tactic of theirs. Pretty smart one too, if you ask me, considering where we're sitting now. why they said anything about the car on December 7th unless it was to spook him, to make him think we're close, but not that close. And think about it, they opened up the phone lines, which were already open. They knew they were going to start getting 1,000,005 calls about white Elantras. They knew at the end of November what they were looking for. They had the tag number. Pretty slippery, if you ask me. Saffron said, the more I think about it, for as frightening as it is to listen to, it's scarier to think the Ring doorbell neighbors can hear us in our own home. I did not know this until the probable cause came out. Did any of you know this? I have an Arlo camera. Mama Kay got me turned on to that. We have Arlo cameras thanks to Mama Kay. I can listen to it back like on my app, but it doesn't pick up anything from my neighbors. Trust me, I've been trying to listen in just for an experiment. I'm not nosy. Now, this is a long time ago, because my kids are older. The baby monitors that we had, you plug into the wall, they were basically just a walkie-talkie. And we also had cordless phones. Those Cobra cordless phones where basically the antenna touched the ceiling as you walked around, like it would hit, like you couldn't walk into a door if that antenna was all the way up. My baby monitor was picking up phone conversations from my next door neighbors. True story. I would think that those things would be perfected in 2023, but we're being told in this probable cause affidavit that there is a Ring camera, I believe. People say it's Ring. I don't remember reading that it was specifically a Ring, but that there is a security system that picked up a loud thud, the dog miraculously learning how to bark. That whole thing blows my mind, and a lot of things that were going on at the house. Kind of freaks me out if you want to know the truth. Did anybody know that they had that kind of capability? Seems a little invasive to me. Just a little bit. Stuff like that kind of freaks me out. Oh, hang on. We're in the same boat. Perry said my baby monitor would pick up the brothel next door because they use them for security reasons. True story. Ryan Christie, hers did that too. I say everybody go back and get a 1997 baby monitor and we can cut all this other stuff out. You got everything. Everything. Hang on. Jay said, even if you have tag and driver's license, you still have any white Elantra with the tag on it. Cops never read the VIN number. They never gave us the tag number, and we know they knew it. The VIN number, we know they knew it. Like I said, I think it's quite a tactic. It's quite a tactic. I saw something in here about the footprints, and they said that footprint was planted because there would be others. I believe there were many, 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 many others. Just my opinion. I think the only reason that they brought up that one footprint is because that one footprint is outside of Dylan's door and it backs up her story. Remember, when she gets on the stand, she is not what is called circumstantial evidence. She's an eyewitness. She's an eyewitness. His defense attorney, be it paid for by the state, private, pro bono, or whatever, is going to attack that eyewitness. And what we are asking here and scratching our heads, even though we're being shamed for it around the internet, that's okay. We're fine. When we ask simple questions like, how the hell could you go back to sleep after that? Why didn't she call 911? All we can attribute it to is either she didn't realize what she was seeing, she didn't care, or she was truly in shock. But the probable cause only names one footprint. That does not mean it's the only one they have. And the probable cause gives us parts of Dylan's story. It can't anywhere near be the whole story. No way. No way. So let's talk about this Tapatalk. Do any of you use this, or have any of you heard of this before what has come out over the last week? Britt said, or she needed time for something, just another thought. There you go. There's a reason. There's a reason. True Crime with Shannon's never heard of it. Never heard of it. I've never heard of it. All right, here's one snippet of what he put up. That is his profile. This is from May of 2011. It shows he's a regular visitor. I wonder who else hangs out on this platform that let him regularly visit. Because everything I'm reading scares the hell out of me. Again, it was over 10 years ago. Considering our subject matter, it seems like things got a little worse for Brian. He says, I always feel, let me get my Dollar Tree readers. It's about time to get a new pair. Teresa said she's heard of it. He says, I always feel as if I'm not there, completely depersonalized. Mentally, I experience colon. He says, not his colon, that's the punctuation. Fog, lack of comprehension at sometimes, feel like my life is a movie. He puts in parentheses depersonalization. Depression, no interest in activity, constant thought of essing himself, crazy thoughts, delusions of grandeur, anxiety, poor self-image, poor social skills, no emotion. I feel like nothing has a point to it. When I get home, I am mean to my family. This started when VS did. Now, this VS is called visual snow. Again, something I've never heard of and is in none of this is an excuse for what he has done. None of it. There are many, many, many people that have lack of comprehension. There's many that feel like they're in a fog or disconnected. They don't do what he did, suspected, accused of doing. When I get home, I'm mean to my family. This started when VS did. I felt no emotion, and along with the depersonalization, I can say and do whatever I want with little remorse. Everyone hates me pretty much. I'm an asshole. This kind of looks like a copy paste where he says, mentally, I experience. He's phrasing this stuff really good, okay? Not saying he wasn't experiencing these things, but he's pretty detailed in his own self-diagnosis. Now, got a lot of HIPAA hula hoops to go through if you really want to know the truth, because we're never going to know if any of this was ever diagnosed, if he went to the doctor, if he was being treated for it. I don't know how that works. I see Christina backstage. You have your camera on, beautiful. Good morning, Christina.
Hey, how are you?
Good, lovely. What you doing?
I just wanted to talk about virtual snow quick.
I'm glad you do, because I'm getting ready to play a clip from the Mayo Clinic to clear it up, but I want to hear you.
Well, that's where my daughter's being treated for it.
Wow.
So
Okay.
there's two main clinics in the United States that treat or doing studies on visual snow. And the Mayo is the lead clinic, but the Cleveland Clinic is also working on it. I guarantee you my daughter has none of the symptoms that Brian attributed to that condition. It is a neurological condition. It's not a visual condition. So, like when we go to the eye doctor, her eyes are perfect. Well, not perfect. She wears contacts, but you know what I'm saying. They're healthy. And it usually comes on after like a virus or some sort of infection in the body. And we can't really figure that out, why it started when it did, because she wasn't ill beforehand. She was, let's see, 18 when it started. So probably about the same age as he is, but she doesn't have any of those other conditions, and she's definitely not a psychopath.
He could have honestly just been Googling different things. I mean, this was on
Sure.
very private platform, a very private platform. And what I was reading about it is they don't know the cause and they're
Right.
nowhere near to a cure. So how does your daughter deal with it?
Um, she just got used to it. Actually, if you remember in the the olden days, but when like channels used to go off for the night and you would just have that static on TV,
Yep,
like,
like poltergeist.
yes, but it's not that bad, but it's similar to that. So also, if any of you have floaters that go over your eyes, I know that's super common. Um, but you like see like they call them like fly wings. You know how they're kind of transparent, but you'll move your eyes quick or look on a white wall and you'll see like black things or whatever. Um, they call those floaters, but those are much more common. It's kind of the same situation,
Perry
but
has a question. Perry wants to know, is it permanent or does it come and go?
it's permanent. And she said it gets worse if she's really tired, if she's been using her eyes a lot. Um, she is a biological studies major, biochem major in college. So if she's using like the microscope for a long time, or if she's, just doing a lot of reading and gets tired, it gets worse. But generally, I mean, it's there all the time. And it doesn't hurt, and she can still read, and it doesn't affect anything. It's just kind of an impediment, an impairment, I guess, a visual impairment.
How old was now you said she was 18?
I think she had just turned 18 when it happened. And we had really no idea what it was because, you know, I mean, it was just kind of out of the blue it happened. We thought it was migraines, but she doesn't get migraines, or they thought it was migraines, but she never got a headache with it. So they kind of eliminated that. It was just a process of elimination, but the Mayo Clinic is definitely the lead um, in that. So, yep. And that's her doctor, actually.
Really?
Yep. She's wonderful.
Well, the Mayo's pretty much the lead in everything. Them, Cleveland Clinic, John Hopkins, anytime they have any sort of experimental anything, one of those names is going to pop up and it will blow my mind every time.
Yeah. So, Carrie is really, she's been so good and so patient. And, um, Catherine my daughter has had to go through like CAT scans and MRIs and PET scans and you name it because they don't know, they can't figure out what causes it. And at this point, they don't have a cure. Um, but I guess my main point is that virtual snow or visual snow, they call them both, doesn't lead to what Brian is saying it leads to, if that makes sense.
So he's saying after visual snow is when he started being so mean to his parents. From what I'm gathering from his Tapatalk profile, he really unleashed a lot on his dad, which his dad obviously took it because his dad flew out to Washington to make sure he had company driving across country. I have a feeling his dad might have been kind of the whipping boy.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Let's look at this clip real quick. And you're very lucky that you have her as a doctor for your daughter. I mean, this woman is on it.
She was hard to get into,
I
but
imagine. Where do you have to
uh,
go to see her?
sorry,
Where do you have to go to see her?
up to Rochester. That's where her office is at. We live in Nebraska, so it's not that far of a drive, but I think it was a 6-month wait to actually get in to see her the first time.
Dear God. Well, here she explains what it is, and none of the symptoms correlate to anything Brian did.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Visual snow is a disorder where patients see a type of TV static in their vision. So it's almost like they have millions of tiny little dots in their vision all the time, and it's throughout their visual field.
Symptoms may involve flashes of light or seeing things that our brain is supposed to tune out, like eye floaters or after images.
Perhaps they'll look at a TV or some words on a piece of paper, and as they start to look away, they still see shadows left over, these after images, and it can almost create like a double vision or a feeling that words are moving when they're trying to read.
These types of symptoms can be distracting by themselves. However, some people also suffer from additional symptoms, such as dizziness, headaches, or ringing in the ears. While many people who experience visual snow are born with it, there can be secondary causes.
Some patients might notice this coming on after an event like a head injury or a really severe infection or illness.
There's not yet a treatment for visual snow, but there are ways to treat the symptoms associated with the disorder.
We can work on different types of visual therapy and work with visual filters to try to reduce the severity, to make it easier for them to read, easier for them to function.
For the Mayo Clinic News Network, I'm Dee Dee Steepen.
I could watch that network all day long. The thing is I'm such a hypochondriac. I think I have visual snow now.
And also that doctor's so awesome. She answers her own emails. They emailed her once on a Sunday for some reason. I don't know. And she like answered within hours on a Sunday.
That is amazing.
I know. She is an incredible woman. Yeah.
Well, and you're an incredible mama too to go through all that with her. But again, like I said, here's my asterisk. This has nothing. What Brian was depicting, writing down, talking about, that could also be another way for him to get attention. Now, this Tapatalk profile, he gets very detailed about what's going on in his mind. And his mind, I don't think he's making any of this up. I'm sure it's a scary ass place to be. Now, there is another channel. It's called The Inquisitor. I just came across this channel recently, and they do great work laying stuff out because I wasn't really sure how to present this because, well, I'm not really schooled in that, if you know what I mean. So I am going to show the video they put together. Go check out their channel. There's no way for me to get a hold of them because they don't have an email or anything listed. But really check this out because they go through this profile and what he said. The way they line it out is great. Let's look at this because this is definitely a big deal. It also came out that he wanted to be an Army Ranger one time. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't try to get into the Army and was refused. I would not be surprised. That's Brian dressing.
Around 10 years ago, Brian Koberger talked about his issues with visual snow syndrome on the Tapatalk group subforum and how it's been negatively affecting his personal life. He also talks about symptoms he's experienced from dissociative disorders such as depersonalization and how it's causing him issues in his day-to-day life. I have had this horrible depersonalization go on in my life for almost 2 years. I often find myself making simple human interactions, but it is as if I am playing a role-playing game such as Oblivion. I can see what is going on. I am slightly into it, but I can pause the game and focus on my real life. In this case, my life is the game and my old self can be reached by pausing the game, but how? I often think of things that humans do, things I have done my whole life. I feel like an organic sack of meat with no self-worth, as I am starting to view everyone as this. Everything I have ever done makes no sense. How did things get this way? How am I wearing this shirt, and who decided that humans shall wear shirts like this? Are we all just advanced animals with possession, or is there more that I can't see? I can't connect. I view everything as I would if I was playing Oblivion, pointless and full of nothing, out of reality. I am moving out of my house. My last holidays were already lived, but where was I? As my family group hugs and celebrates, I am stuck in this void of nothing, feeling completely no emotion, feeling nothing. I feel dirty, like there is dirt inside of my head, my mind. I am always dizzy and confused. I feel no self-worth. I am intelligent, but I feel the opposite. I say things I don't mean. The last holiday in my house, the house I grew up in, the house I once contributed to, the house I once felt at home in, is past. As I hug my family, I look into their faces, I see nothing. It is like I am looking at a video game, but less. I feel less than mentally damaged, it is like I have severe brain damage. I am stuck in the depths of my mind, where I have to constantly battle my demons. Am I here or am I fake? I feel myself slipping away. I hear screams faintly, but I constantly battle away from it. What if I let go? Where would I be? Would I ever come back to reality? I try to remember where I originated from, but I can't. I barely remember my childhood. I often fear being 80 years old, alone, and having faint memories of my parents, everything I missed out on. I think about my father. What a good man he is. How I treat him like dirt because I have this condition, and I can't take it. I might spiral out of control and lose myself in the void.
I'm going to pause it right there. That's a lot to take in, guys. That's a lot to take in. All of this came from his brain that he feels like has dirt inside of it. Dirt inside of it. Now, I don't know how he says the family home he grew up in that he contributed to, because I don't think Brian ever helped pay the light bill. Are you getting all this, Christina?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yep. It sounds like he really has a severe mental disorder.
He does. That does not excuse quadruple murder. I can't say that enough.
No, absolutely not.
I wonder if this is the reason his sister went into the line of work she went into, because she is, from what I understand, she's a psych nurse.
Yes, I've heard that too.
And where Summer and I, we've talked about this several times, and she said it's like he's taking pieces of all these serial killers, like when you build a character in a game, and he built his own serial killer, but he's the killer.
Right.
It's beyond insane. Living proof. I have no idea if a doctor ever diagnosed him or if this was all just kept within the family. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just not kept inside the family, which, by the way, is not uncommon at all. And this does not fall on his parents or his sister.
How much older is his sister?
Um, he's 28. She's 31 or 32, a few years older than him.
So when he was going through this, she would have been in nursing school, wouldn't she? Or
Yeah, I guess about, yeah.
so I would think maybe she would have seen some of this because he went to school right near their house.
Yeah, at first he did. Where did he get like his 4-year degree? Did he just do the master's at DeSales? I need to look again. I've got so many notes on this dude. And he's got two sisters. One is like a school counselor and one's a nurse.
Oh, geez. Okay. I didn't know about the school counselor. I mean, they're taught to find this stuff. They're taught to look for this sort of thing.
Isn't that the damnedest thing, though, when it's someone you love?
Mm-hmm. And that's what it is, too. Probably they wanted to look the other way, or maybe they did try to help him, but, wow.
Because he's definitely got some intrusive thoughts going on.
Well, yeah, if he thinks his mind's full of dirt. I've never heard that before.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I don't want to feel pity for the guy, but goodness, could you imagine living with all that in your head all the time?
Right. Right. And I have a feeling, now, it's not uncommon for kids to experiment with drugs, but for him to have the habit that they said he had could have been to get rid of these symptoms he's describing.
Or did they cause the symptoms?
One or the other.
I mean, some of it sounds like he's tripping on acid, actually. I don't know. Are you going to get in trouble from YouTube for that? I hope not. But
yeah, we'll figure it out. There's always a simple edit for what I get in trouble for. It hadn't stopped me yet.
But that's kind of what I was thinking as I was reading it. It's like he's either on drugs or he needs some sort of psychological help.
He definitely needed psychological help. And to me, if I was his parents are in a his parents are in a world of hurt right now, you know. If he was sharing these same feelings and thoughts with his family, to me, it would have been kind of a no-go on the career path he chose. I'd have been like, "Well, no, son. I think you do a lot better if you put your mind to work this way, not that way." So I'm wondering if this is just stuff that bounced around in his brain and like everybody knew he was a little off, but didn't know that this was going on.
Right, right.
Let's get back to it. And in some of these posts, he's reaching out for help. He's asking people, can you relate? He's trying to find people to talk to. So that makes me think that he wasn't getting any help on the outside, that it was something he was keeping to himself and not a victim. And he's not a victim.
I
Right,
might
right.
spiral out of control and lose myself in the void. I can't let it all go. All of these regrets I predict for my future self. All of these thoughts of remorse. I got this when I was in my stage of discovery. Now I look in the mirror and I see this sickly, tired, useless and stupid man in the mirror. He is a complete disgrace. He doesn't even deserve to live. I remember when I was 15. I would wander alone at 2 a.m. Everything was so generic. Nowhere felt like home. I saw things that were not there, a different reality. I felt eerie and alone. I died during those nights. I felt like a criminal, but where was my record? I can't talk without flinching now. I used to be this healthy blonde-haired boy with blue eyes, and in a few years I have darker hair and darker eyes, half the body.
Now, the blonde hair, blue eyes thing kind of made me go, what?
Right.
He seems to have a problem with his weight, which is the reason I think he became vegan. I don't think he is offended by meat at all, even though he said he feels like he's wearing a meat suit.
Right.
Me and my meat suit shit and fell back in it when we read that. Delusional. Delusional.
Definitely.
Mind you guys, this was 10 years ago. I don't think anybody would have had the foresight to make this profile up and pretend to be Brian in 2011.
No, and these are thoughts that it sounds like he probably did have even now.
Mm-hmm. If this profile came out last week and was made last week, then yeah, I'd be like, somebody made this up. This is in 2011 and things didn't get better for Brian. No sympathy.
And in a few years I have darker hair and darker eyes, half the body weight. Where did I leave off? I try to sleep. I try to clear my head, but the pressure won't go away. The pain and depression won't leave. Being me is this horrible disease that I was given. I think of this as I succumb to sleep. But I see a large intensity of black, yellow, white fuzz. It makes my mind fizzle and I can barely keep in the bounds of reality. It is as if the ringing in my ears and the fuzz in my vision is simply all of the demons in my head mocking me. I fall asleep, but I wake up quickly to bloody screams.
Now, some of this seems a little dramatic. I just can't imagine him really going through waking up to bloody screams. He mentions the ringing in his ears, which, as we heard from the Mayo Clinic, is a symptom. You just, considering what he's been accused of, it's kind of hard to want to, was he really, really, really going through all this? Because I have a hard time believing nobody would have gotten him any help. He does not come from a bad family. And Kane has an excellent point. If he's that vegan, he would not have had a leather sheath. They do no animal at all. No animal at all. He's pretty dramatic. He's very detailed for sure. But like I said, this isn't something he wrote from inside the jail to get everyone's attention and sympathy. This is years ago.
Is any of this here? Am I brain damaged? No? Then why am I like this? I have these thoughts all in my head. I search for someone to relate to me. Everyone looks down upon me. No one can relate. As I try to read, suddenly my eyes look right through the words. When I look up, I see blue dots near the center of my vision. When I feel slightly calm, it gets hard to breath, and I see bright dots in my vision. Nothing I do is enjoyable. I am blank. I have no opinion. I have no emotion. I have nothing. Can you relate?
All right, so the whole "can you relate" tells me he's in there trying to find people to talk to him about this. And no, the police have not come out and said this is him. They're not going to at all because there's a gag order. There's a gag order. Just like the Reddit post saying he's, conducting this experiment. They haven't verified that either. This has just all been done by news networks. Interesting to say the least. So, I mean, the profile picture is of a much younger Brian, that's for sure. It's and again, with the gag order, guys, as these things come out, like friends of his and friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, the police are not going to say anything. The DA isn't going to say anything. His attorney isn't going to say anything because they're under a pretty strict gag order. The other people aren't, though. JM said his intelligence was on the edge of insanity. This might have pushed him over the edge. Shelley said only one person responded. I kind of thought maybe a bunch of people went in there and deleted their comment, but it seems that only one person reached out to Brian. You can just imagine how that person feels now. What would you say about that?
Yeah, he needed help. I won't blame his parents, but surely there were signs or red flags. But again, if you're too close to it, maybe you don't see it.
Well, and I've used the metaphor on here a few times before. It's watching the movie and being in the movie are two totally different things. When
Yes.
you're swimming in the ocean, you get bit by the shark because you're not paying attention. You're watching the movie and you're like, swim, bitch, you're going to get eaten. You're
Right.
going to get eaten.
Right.
All right. So speaking of parents, over the weekend, Maggie O'Mara, she tweeted, I'll put it up and I'll have to read it from here because it's too grainy on the screen. She spoke to Steve, and it's going to come up again and again and again. We're not victim shaming, survivor shaming, anything like that. It is part of a government document called the probable cause, where Dylan is the eyewitness to Brian and his bushy eyebrows. She spoke to Steve, Kaylee's father. We're all very aware of him, asking him what he thinks about this. He's spoken out about the probable cause. I don't think he was in any way, shape, or form prepared for that much information. I could not imagine being any of these parents, Brian's included, having to read that. That's insane. So the thread reads, there was a lot of discussion about Dylan, the roommate who saw the killer walking by her after the murders. She froze and then locked herself in her room. Steve spoke to NBC about Dylan, and she said, I'll share some of the transcript here. Steve said, I think it's another victim of this crime. He also said, my heart goes out to her, and she came up to me in different celebrations, and she showed herself to me that she didn't behave in a fashion of somebody who was involved in something like this. Hang on, I got to check something here. Oh, we lost Christina. She has a meeting. Adulting gets in the way of us fighting crime up here. All right, so Steve says, my heart goes out to her, meaning Dylan, and she came up to me in different celebrations of life, and she showed herself to me that she didn't behave in a fashion of somebody who was involved in something like this. He said, I think she's just a girl that was scared and froze up. So this is obviously a conversation that was had and is being had. He's thinking about it for sure. Just like everybody else who read the probable cause, you go, well, now hang on. You went back in your room and you locked the door, but you didn't call 911. There is way more to this situation than what was put in there. Steve says he has questions about what happened after she locked the door, but he says those will be answered in time. And they will, because the entire story is going to have to be told at some point in front of a jury. Steve also talked about what happened during the 911 call later that day. He said, you have to remember these two girls, which I'm going to assume is Dylan and Bethany. We know Dylan. These two girls were so upset that when they went outside after seeing this, it wasn't very legible. They couldn't quite understand what these girls were seeing. I think that meant to see saying. So he's talking about the 911 call. One passed out and the other one was hyperventilating that the message wasn't clear enough for the operator. This is a comment about the 911 call. Steve said, and she's just a girl that was scared. Until I know better, that's how I'm going to treat it. So what we can gather from that is Steve has heard the story that's been circulating for a while, that Bethany went upstairs. Bethany saw this scene. The only roommate that she found alive was Dylan. They went outside. They get outside supposedly. Mind you, this is all we're hearing. This is not in the probable cause. This is not verified. This is not proven. This is just the word on the street. And this is the story that was told to Kaylee's dad. Dylan passes out. Bethany's hyperventilating. Now, we know that friends were called. Friends were called over. We don't know how many. And that the unconscious person is Dylan. So when asked about the friends and the 911 call, this is all the chief had to say.
So will you clarify that for me?
You're not confirming a roommate called 911, but if you used the roommate's phone, so was there someone else at the home other than those roommates?
There was other friends that had arrived at the location.
How many? Everybody at the call.
Honestly, I'm not quite sure at this time, to be quite honest.
Do you guys have any idea if the killer's still within the community, or are you looking outside the community for the killer in terms of their physical location?
We are looking everywhere that evidence would lead us. I can't say if the person's here. I can't say what community the person's in. We're utilizing every resource we can to make that location of that.
Okay, that kind of trailed on, but what he was saying is he looked at the camera and he goes, we don't know how many. So we don't know why Bethany called friends instead of 911. Some people say it's because she wanted to let Ethan's siblings know what she had come across. And it was such chaos and pandemonium, supposedly on this 911 call that we have not heard, that it just got transcribed as an unconscious person. I don't know. According to Ethan's parents, they found out that what happened to Ethan through their other children, not from the authorities. They said that when they talked to a local reporter. Jesse said Steve has questions too, and he should, but by being Kaylee's dad and them being friends, you would think he would know her story by now. That is the $64,000 question. You would think that all of these families by now would know somebody. I mean, this is the explanation that's given. The explanation that's given is Bethany wakes up. Bethany sees all this. She finds one roommate alive, which is Dylan. They run outside, which that would be the first thing I would do, is run outside. Dylan passes out. Bethany calls other friends. The other friends show up. 911 is called from one of their phones. I don't know if it was Dylan or Bethany's. They show up to the house and, well, here we are. It doesn't make sense. There's more to the story, and they're all going to have to talk about this. They're all going to have to talk about this. What did Bouchit say? Bouchit. I just saw Glenjamin say, what, Bouchit? Brooks, reading the PC, it says Dylan originally went to sleep on the second level. Did she move from the original spot she went to sleep to another spot? I didn't read anything about originally. I can pull it up. Originally, we were told, and not by the police, that she was on the first floor, that both Dylan and Bethany were on floor 1. And as I would say, well, one of them would have had to have woke up. And you saw many people come in and say, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? And they would go into their stories about things they've slept through, which, hey, I've slept through tornadoes. I get it. I get it. I'm talking about different sounds, though. So I left it alone. I left it alone. Now we find out Bethany was on floor 1. Dylan was on floor 2, and she didn't sleep through it. She saw him. Let me look at the affidavit. Hang on. I've got it right here. Do you know about how far down it said originally? Because why would she move to floor 2? What I read was she opened her door 3 times. A lot of stuff went on at 4 a.m. A lot of stuff went on at 4 a.m. A lot. I mean, the timeline is basically at 1 a.m., Dylan and Bethany get back to the house. At 1:45, Ethan and Xana return home. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a lot of commotion about 5 hours being missing from Xana and Ethan's timeline. Aaron Snell said they were seen at the frat party. And then they know that they returned home around 1:45 a.m., but they said they didn't know what was going on in the middle of that. The probable cause affidavit says Bethany saw them at the party. So then they say the 5 hours are accounted for. But between 1 a.m. and 1:45 when they returned home, who saw them in that 45 minutes? Time's a big deal. Then at 1:56 a.m., Maddie and Kaylee return home. 3:29, Brian's car was first seen on King Road surveillance. 4 a.m., all roommates except for Xana are asleep or in their rooms, according to Dylan. And again, Dylan's going to be asked about this when she's on the witness stand. I'm not saying Dylan's lying at all. I'm not saying that at all. Just saying that Dylan's the key to this. Bethany was on floor 1 asleep. Do you guys think Bethany ever during this woke up? I think Bethany at some point must have woke up but didn't realize anything was going on. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. So at 4 a.m., let's look at all the things that went on. DoorDash is dropping off Xana's food. Dylan is awoken. The dog learns to bark. And shortly after, the murders occur. That's a lot of stuff going on at 4 a.m. A lot. Julesy said the dog learns to bark. Hey, man, you're following the same case as me. We've been hearing for weeks that dog never barks. Then I'm reading the probable cause affidavit. Not only did Dylan wake up when I heard she sleeps like a log, suddenly the dog barks. It's crazy. Where's Jane Doe going? Hang on, I just saw Jane Doe have a good day. Oh, she's listening from work. All right. Okay. Shelly said, yeah, this is a common theory. Because of all the parties there, noises, pranks, and stuff like that, they would ignore a lot of stuff going on outside of their room. I can buy that. I can buy that. But when you open the door 3 times, and like Susan said, She said he would have to have been holding the knife. If you can see bushy eyebrows, would you, and you know what he's wearing, you know he's got a mask on, you see the eyebrows, where was the knife? Did she miss the knife? And then it makes me wonder, did he realize that she was opening and shutting the door? How did she survive this? Because the one footprint, which I have a feeling there's many, many, many more, that is mentioned in the probable cause affidavit, they mentioned to back up her story. That's the only reason it's there. That's the only reason it's there. Yeah, hang on. What was I looking at? Oh, some people were asking, where are the vans now? Where are the vans now? This was a picture just taken off of a TV. This is from News Nation, and it was blown up, sent to me. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Because this is blown up. That looks like a pair of vans in the evidence bag being taken out of Brian's apartment. I think it's safe to say if those truly are vans, you guys will have to blow them up on your own. There they are. Probably. Like how I threw that in there. Glenjamin said, no sheath. That's not something you carry in your pocket. Oh, hell no. It's a big ass knife. Leaving that sheath is the most unusual thing to me. That's what I want to know. How was that sheath left behind? That's crazy. Detective 1, just going through this crazy case. Just going through this crazy case. All right, so new details, of course, have come out saying that, which we kind of figured it out anyway. When the coroner said early on they were all asleep in their bed, well, the probable cause affidavit basically says Xana wasn't. She had just gotten a DoorDash order. She was active on TikTok at 4:12 a.m. Here is a really interesting clip we're going to look at.
Tonight, we're learning more details about the grisly murders in Idaho. Police believe Brian Koberger stabbed the students to death between 4 and 4:25 that morning. But after earlier reports, the victims were likely sleeping. New court records show at least one victim, Xana Kernodle, was likely awake, getting a DoorDash delivery at 4 a.m. and minutes later was on TikTok. One of the surviving roommates hearing cries from Xana's room, then opening her own door to see that masked man coming toward her, so close she could see his bushy eyebrows before he walked past her and out the sliding glass door. Up until the release of this affidavit, police had not revealed one of the two roommates who survived was actually awake and witnessed the intruder.
Releasing that information could potentially do two things: put them in jeopardy, and also maybe complicate your ability to identify him. He might start getting rid of things, evidence that you might at some point be able to seize.
Police say last fall, Koberger, a graduate student in criminology.
I'm pausing it right there. Nobody's going to tell me. I'm just really curious. As we know, neither Dylan or Bethany have spoken out, and good, they shouldn't. They wrote some letters that were read at their celebration of life. They were read out. I would hope that they're both being monitored by the police. I really hope so. We know Brian's in jail. But we also know there are a lot of internet crazies out there that will do anything to get a hold of these girls, whether it's to try to get them to come on their YouTube channel or some that will want to do harm to these girls. Whatever really went on inside that house, that's got to be sorted out by the police. Because as we know, it doesn't make any sense. We know it doesn't. They got tattoos a couple of days after, and they put them on, I think it was Instagram. Other than that, and that letter, that's all we have. I really hope that they are being monitored. I couldn't imagine ants opening my damn inbox and all the freaks that want to talk to them. Nobody knows where they're at. Boo Sheet said we know everyone's whereabouts except Dylan's. What do you mean? We don't know where Bethany or Dylan's at. I'm assuming they're at home with their families. I mean, we know the whereabouts of Ethan, Kaylee, Madison, and Xana. We know where Brian's ass is. So who is unaccounted for?
Be able to seize.
Police say last fall, Koberger, a graduate student in criminology, applied for an internship with local police in nearby Pullman, Washington. Around the same time, investigators say cell phone data shows he made at least a dozen late night or early morning trips near the victim's home. Kaylee Gonzalez's father trying to find out why the killer went after these students.
There's still more to be gathered. I think it was a restaurant or a coffee shop or something like that that put this predator on their path.
You can see there right behind me, those sliding glass doors. Authorities say that's how they believe the suspect left the home. They also say that they can use cell phone data to place Brian Koberger back here near the home 5 hours after the murders, around 9:20 in the morning. It was also nearly 3 more hours before that initial 911 call was made. Kana Whitworth, ABC News, Moscow, Idaho.
All right. So, I mean, every major news network brings it up. They were talking about on the Today Show. They said, do you know why there was such a gap in having to call? This was Savannah Guthrie on the Today Show. And I thought, get ready, Savannah Guthrie, because all of these people who basically blamed people, anybody who has been anywhere near the victims, were at one time or another accused of this crime. Hell, Jeremy couldn't even come out to walk his dog or check his mail without becoming a suspect, according to social media. Shelley said Bethany was at the fraternity party, but no info on where Dylan was. Exactly. Where was Dylan all night? The probable cause says that Bethany places Ethan and Xana at the party up until 1 a.m. because she was home at 1 a.m. We don't know where Xana and Ethan were up in for those 45 minutes between 1 a.m. and 1:45, and we don't know where the hell Dylan was all night. We don't know where the hell Dylan was all night. Mama Kay said calling friends show they would have covered for each other if they needed to. Saying it again. It is odd to see that scene and call friends and not call the police. I mean, you guys have heard 911 calls made by 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. That's going to look weird. That's going to look weird. So I know it's really been weighing heavily on you guys. I put it on the members tab the other day. This has been floating around. The New York Post put this picture up too. The New York Post was pretty busy this weekend. According to the New York Post, this is Brian at the vigil. Some people don't think it looks like Brian at all. I do. I think like a week ago, I put it on the members tab and I asked all you guys, I said, do you think this is Brian? Jesse said, that's not him. Julesy says, I do. Kool-Aid Man Jamie says, not him. Move along. I do as you command, Jamie. Exactly right, Snazzy. Thank you for the super sticker. It could take years before there's a trial. I don't know why this is floating around that there's going to be a trial in June. He's not getting married. We're not planning for a June wedding. This is a very, very expensive and complex trial. I'd be surprised if there's a trial scheduled at this time next year. Britt said the nose looks different, but hard to tell. Snooks believes it's him. Amanda needs a front shot. I'll see what I can do. The New York Post only gave this. Yes, anything Jamie wants, we do on here. Natalie says it's a different hairline. The hairline looks the same to me. Boo sheet. I wonder why that shoe print wasn't visible to the naked eye. Does anybody have any thoughts on this? Because the only thing I can think of is somebody wiped up that shoe print. They had to use certain chemicals to get a latent shoe print. The shoe print wasn't visible. I think it's called amino black. Does anybody have any thoughts? Because we're having an adult conversation. We're not blaming or accusing. Does anybody have any thoughts on why the shoe print outside of Dylan's room wasn't visible? Mama Kay said it had faded. Tiffany said quit calling them kids. Vicky said, I wonder why the person doesn't come forward and tell if it isn't Brian. Well, you would think that somebody would come out and say, calm down, that's really me, but would you want to say that you look like Brian? It makes Halloween shopping easy, but I don't know. As far as all the bloody footprints people are looking for, we don't know. The probable cause named one footprint outside of Dylan's door to back up Dylan's story. There could be thousands in there. But why was that one footprint not visible to the naked eye? It's not like a lot of people had been coming in and out of Dylan's room and it had worn off. Unless Bethany, when she went to get Dylan, when she came across this scene, rumored, this is what was told to Steve, if she stepped in that one spot. I don't know. I mean, how fast do things like this fade? Because we're only talking about a few hours. We're only talking about a couple hours. Well, 8. Oh, Snazzy said maybe he lost a shoe cover. So it was also said that over the weekend, it came out that in Pennsylvania, Brian was seen wearing surgical gloves and cleaning his car. Well, good luck, Brian, because as we speak, they are still, I promise, going through his car. They are taking that car apart piece by piece by piece. In the arrest affidavit of Letitia Staunch, actually, it wasn't the arrest affidavit, it's further on. I want to say it was like a pretrial discovery. They were talking about the car she was driving to transport Gannon's body, it's believed. And it was quite a process to go through that car. They could even tell where she had been according to the air conditioning system and what goes through the air conditioning system in the car. So while he drives it with his dad in it all the way to Pennsylvania, and he's seen outside by FBI agents cleaning the car. Cleaning the car. That's too little too late. For sure. And in case you guys were worried about this, I know I certainly was. A couple of days after Brian's arrest last week, it came out who his professor is. There's Brian on the screen, smiling at his defense attorney. It came out that his professor, I still would love to know how he got in that class. Because that class, the waiting list for that class is from Tulsa to Tokyo. It's a long, long waiting list, but he got in it. Anyhow, it was speculated if he was influenced by or maybe even had any communication with the BTK killer, Dennis Rader. Well, the New York Post got a response out of BTK. So did TMZ and a few others. BTK is popular. BTK said no on Kauberger all around. The convicted serial killer, whose real name is Dennis Miller, told TMZ in response to a query about whether he had connected with the 28-year-old accused murderer of 4 college students in Moscow. Let's look at that again. I can't do a BTK voice, but let's try it. No on Kauberger all around. Do you know what a shit person you have to be for the BTK killer to be like, what, him? No. I didn't have any correspondence with his ass. I've got much better things to do with the 23 hours a day I have to spend in this cell. Who, Brian? What? Didn't he get caught within a couple of months? No, I don't hang with him. No, TMZ. Really? Brian Kauberger? No, on Kauberger all around, he said. He has no time for him. Like I said, he's only got 23 hours a day to kill, but he didn't have any time for fucking Brian. Nope, not the BTK killer. So, as if Brian didn't have a bad enough self-esteem problem, he's got one of the worst people in the history of the world saying, I don't hang with that bastard. No, he can't sit with me. No, I'd rather read all these pamphlets that Westbury Baptist Church is sending to me than correspond with a aspiring to be me person. Nope, all around. I'm not dealing with him. Well, that would definitely put me in a world of hurt if the BTK killer just said, not just no, but hell no, would I deal with her. But that's basically how he phrased it to TMZ and the New York Post. And basically everybody knows, Brian, that even Dennis Rader doesn't want to talk to your ass. But that's all right. So also that came out over the weekend, Olivia, Kaylee's sister, gave an interview to News Nation. So before I close up the show, we're going to go through that. See what Olivia has to say. I bet the BTK killer would answer her letters, but I don't recommend anybody writing to the BTK killer.
What was your reaction when you were able to read through? I think I was texting you. I was in line in court trying to read the affidavit on my phone. What was your reaction when you were first able to read through all of it?
Yeah, to be honest, I think that that's been the hardest part of this, is to sit back and look at the totality of it. When my sister was FaceTiming me about a new egg bites recipe, he was planning his next visit to the home. And that's really difficult. It's really difficult not to wish that you had done more, wish that you had known more. But it's just the first step. A lot more evidence will come out. And I'm confident that Moscow Police Department, Idaho State Police, and the FBI have the right person. And I thank them from the very bottom of my heart.
Yeah, I had never really thought about it that way. When you go through the timeline and the affidavit and see all the dates of when the cell phones pinged, you can actually go back. And I know you talk to your sister every day. You can actually go back and think of your conversations from those specific times.
Yeah, you know, the August 21st date, I can go back and remember the conversation that I had with Kaylee that day, and how normal everything was, and the fact that we had no idea, she had no idea, I had no idea that true evil was genuinely watching them.
So this is certainly something that your family never envisioned that you would be going through. But I think what's so amazing about you guys is you're already trying to turn this tragedy into good in some way. Can you talk a little bit about, I know you're in the early stages of perhaps setting up a foundation to remember Kaylee, but tell me about your family's plans going in that direction.
Yeah, so from the beginning, we've definitely wanted to set up something that's Kaylee and Maddie's legacy going forward. But for, up until there was an arrest made, we weren't really sure what that meant, what exactly we were standing for and standing against. And now that we are starting to be able to put some of those pieces together, we're really, I guess, excited. I don't know if that's the right word, to be able to set up a foundation or a nonprofit or something in the girls' honor in some way to be able to help other families like us the best way that we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be looking forward to that, and we'll of course want to share that information. And I know people want to know how they can help. Olivia, I don't think people realize, you've got kids, you're pregnant. You have in many ways been the backbone for your family behind the scenes. You've been very, very strong, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come on tonight.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. That was groundbreaking. It did break my heart in a million pieces. Well, first of all, to think of any of these families, and yes, even including Brian's, to have to go through that probable cause affidavit. And like she said, the dates. She's sitting there going, here, it looks like he's planning this. And I'm just chatting with my sister like sisters do. Well, if you get along with your sister. And then you hear later that while we're just going about our normal lives because we're normal people, this dude is lurking in the shadows. A guy that even the BTK killer will not make friends with, I'm never letting that go, was plotting to kill them. Stalking the house. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Tamara says, in my opinion, so much more than just touch DNA that says it's him. Yeah. It's pretty shocking that they put as much as they did in the probable cause, because you just need enough to convince a judge that it's go time. We're ready to arrest this guy. That's it. We're getting ready to get this guy off the streets, put him in a cage, and this is what we got. They put a lot in it for it blows my mind and really confuses me, if you want to know the truth, why the roommates, who they say are the key to everything, but why that we have seen so many over the years heavily redacted probable cause, where you're trying to figure out what you're even freaking reading. But they left all that in there. They protect the identity of the DoorDash driver and the private driver that brought Kaylee and Madison home. But the rest is all hanging out in the wind for everyone to see. Pretty crazy to me. Pretty crazy. None of it is surprising at this point. But then tomorrow I'll come on and I'll be like, shocked again. Shocked again. All right, guys, here in a couple of hours at 1 o'clock my time, 1 o'clock Tulsa time, Central time, we're going to do our first live about Anna Walsh, who is missing out of the Northeast outside of Boston. Her husband was arrested yesterday for lying to the police. There's a lot going on in this case. So do some studying up, help me out if you know what I mean. And if you could, there's 663 people in here right now. If everybody could hit the like button, it helps us a lot with YouTube. YouTube, for some reason, really looks at those likes. I don't pay that much attention to it, but it seems to be a really big deal. So if you could be so kind as to hit the like button and be so kind as to pencil me in for 1 o'clock Central time, we're going to go through and start breaking down the case of Anna Walsh. You guys are the best. We have the best mods, the best people, all around the best that YouTube has to offer right here. I guarantee if all of us sat down right now and wrote a letter to BTK, he'd want to talk to us. Not Brian, though. Not Brian, though. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, Brian. He told everybody. No on Kahlberger all around, but yes on all of us. So I'll see you back here in a couple hours, guys. You are the best.